The sky over New York turned strange shades of green and purple as the sun set behind the skyscrapers. Satellites orbiting the Earth picked up signals that had never been seen before. The data puzzled scientists everywhere. Dr. Ryan Cole stared at the monitors in the laboratory, his eyes wide and his hand shaking slightly as he adjusted the readings. The signals were massive, and they moved faster than anything humans had ever built. This was not normal. Something enormous was coming toward Earth, something that could change everything. The military command center was filled with tension. General Mark Davis paced across the room, his uniform stiff and his face hard. He looked at the reports on his screen and shook his head. "It is probably just a glitch," he said. His voice was calm, but it carried an edge of fear. Ryan did not agree. He knew the patterns. He had studied them for weeks, and there was no mistake. The signals were real, and they were approaching Earth fast. Outside the laboratory, the city moved as usual. People walked through the streets completely unaware of the danger that was heading toward them. Traffic lights changed. Sirens wailed for minor accidents, and children played in the parks.
Oh no.
No one noticed the strange colors in the sky or the unusual tremors that shook the buildings. Headlines called the signals space rumors and laughed at the idea of danger. Ryan watched the world ignore the warning and felt a cold knot of fear in his stomach. In the laboratory, screens showed detailed images of the approaching ships. They were larger than anything on Earth. Each ship was long and dark, with surfaces that reflected no light. Ryan zoomed in on the readings. Energy readings were off the charts. These were not normal spacecraft. The power required to move them was beyond anything humans had. They were designed for war, built to destroy. Ryan called for an urgent briefing with the generals. "We need to prepare," he said. "Evacuate the coastal cities. Mobilize the military. This is a threat we cannot ignore." General Davis looked at him with a skeptical eye. "We have old weapons, but they cannot stop these ships. It is too late to prepare. We should wait and see what they do." Ryan felt his stomach tighten. Waiting was not an option. Every second counted. He tried again. "If we do nothing, millions will die. We have to act now. We have to understand their technology before it is too late." The general waved him off, signaling that the meeting was over. That night, the city felt a tremor. Windows rattled and car alarms screamed. People ran outside looking up at the sky. The strange green and purple lights were brighter now. Satellites showed one of the massive ships dropping out of the upper atmosphere and hovering over the Atlantic Ocean. The military scrambled ships and jets, but they could not reach the enormous vessel. It hovered silently, dark and threatening. Ryan watched in horror as waves of fear spread through the city. Panic began to rise. People shouted and ran, trying to understand what was happening. News anchors broadcast live, their faces pale. They spoke of strange phenomena, of massive ships, of unexplained signals in the sky. Some people laughed nervously, thinking it was a hoax or a new type of advertisement. Others prayed, holding hands and hoping for protection. The streets were chaotic. Traffic was jammed as people tried to leave the city. Emergency sirens blared across every district. Inside the laboratory, Ryan and his team worked without rest. They studied the energy readings, tried to map the ship's paths, and calculated the speed of their approach. Every calculation confirmed their worst fears. The ships were moving faster than any known propulsion system. They were intelligent, targeting specific areas. The destruction they could cause was unimaginable. Ryan took a deep breath and spoke to his assistant, Jess Taylor. "We have to find a way to communicate or fight. If we wait, it will be too late. We cannot let the world stay blind to this threat." Outside, the tremors grew stronger. Streetlights flickered and buildings shook. The alien presence, massive and silent, hung over the ocean like a shadow ready to strike. Ryan felt the weight of responsibility. He knew that if the warnings were ignored, the world would pay a terrible price. He looked at the glowing monitors, at the strange signals that pulsed like a heartbeat, and whispered to himself, "This is not a warning. This is the beginning of the war." The city held its breath. People looked to the sky, uncertain and afraid. Ryan and his team prepared for what was coming. They had no idea if they could stop it. All they knew was that the fate of humanity would be decided in the hours to come. The tremors shook the earth again, and Ryan realized that nothing would ever be the same. The battle had begun. and the world was not ready. On a remote island in the Pacific, a radar station blinked with warning lights. The first massive ship had entered Earth's orbit, was enormous, black, and unlike anything humans had ever built. The ship moved with precision, and its shape reflected no light. Captain Jess Taylor stood on the control deck of a nearby naval vessel. Her hands gripped the railing, and her eyes narrowed at the screen. "This is bigger than the ISS," she said, voice tight with tension. Her crew worked quickly, sending drones to gather more data. Every movement of the ship was fast, calculated, and powerful. Naval ships and fighter jets were scrambled. Jets took off, engines screaming, and missiles were launched. They moved with all the speed they could manage, yet the massive ship did not slow down. The missiles vanished before reaching their target, simply disintegrated in the air. The crew of the naval vessel exchanged worried glances. Captain Taylor said, "They are not ordinary ships. Cannot attack them directly. Need a plan." Back on the mainland, Dr. Ryan Cole and his team watched in horror as the radar images streamed in. "They are too advanced," Ryan whispered. His hands shook as he adjusted the monitors, trying to calculate the ship's speed and size. Every number confirmed his fears. The ship had weapons far beyond human technology, could strike with precision and move faster than any aircraft on Earth. People across the world began to notice the strange green and purple lights in the sky. Some stared in awe, others in fear. News anchors spoke live from major cities. Their faces were pale, their voices shaking slightly. They reported strange objects hovering over the Atlantic, objects that defied all explanation. Some viewers laughed nervously, thinking it was a hoax or a new type of media stunt. Others prayed, holding hands in churches and homes. Panic began to spread as social media exploded with videos of lights and strange signals in the sky. On the remote island, the first missile from a naval ship reached the edge of the massive vessel's energy field. It exploded in midair, leaving only a brief flash of light. The alien ship did not respond with visible weapons, but the sheer presence of it caused waves in the ocean below. Water swirled violently, and small islands nearby felt tremors. Captain Taylor barked orders to maneuver the fleet into a safer position. Drones continued to circle the massive ship, sending back images that were analyzed by scientists on the mainland. Every report confirmed the threat was real and immense. Ryan worked with Jess through live communications, tried to help coordinate their actions. "Keep them under observation," Ryan said. "Do not engage until we understand more. Every attack could cost us thousands of lives." Jess nodded, though she felt the pressure building. The crew was tense. Every wave, every shadow of the massive ship caused fear. The humans were still unprepared for what they faced. Suddenly, a beam of energy shot from the massive ship toward a small fleet of defense vessels. The water around the ships boiled and erupted. Humans watched in horror as ships disintegrated instantly. The beam did not slow. It was precise, targeted, and deadly. Ryan and his team could only watch the destruction on their screens. "This is just the beginning," Ryan said quietly. Meanwhile, across the world, people were forced to accept that the danger was real. Coastal cities began evacuation plans, though chaos slowed the process. Air traffic was grounded. Ships returned to ports. Communication networks tried to handle the panic, but signals were unstable. Governments issued warnings, and despite the efforts, fear spread faster than organization. Captain Taylor and her crew moved the remaining vessels back to a safe distance. The massive ship hovered silently over the Atlantic, casting a dark shadow on the waves below. Drones circled, attempting to gather more information, but every signal faced resistance. It became clear to the humans that their weapons were useless against this unknown power. Ryan and his team worked through the night, analyzing data and trying to find a weakness. Every calculation, every simulation, and every estimate showed the same result. Humans were at a severe disadvantage. Yet despite fear and uncertainty, Ryan did not give up. He turned to his team and said, "We will find a way. We must survive and learn. If we do nothing, the world will fall." As the night deepened, the massive ship remained in orbit. Its presence was overwhelming. Alarms blared in cities, drones moved continuously, and humans tried to prepare. The ocean below swirled with energy, and the sky glowed with strange lights. Ryan and Jess knew that the coming hours would decide the fate of millions. The first attack had shown humanity how fragile they were. The war had begun, and the humans had to fight smarter, faster, and with courage to survive. President Simon Hill called an emergency meeting in the White House. Leaders from around the world joined through video links. The room was tense. Maps of the ocean and satellite images of the massive ship covered the screens. The president spoke in a firm voice. "We face a threat we have never seen. Our weapons may not be enough. We need a plan to protect civilians and prepare our military," the defense secretary argued. "We have no technology that can stop them. Our fleets will be destroyed if we attack." The debate continued, but time was running out. Every second counted. Dr. Ryan Cole and his team worked frantically in the laboratory. They analyzed the energy readings and tried to predict the ship's movements. Ryan said, "We have to evacuate coastal cities, move civilians inland. We must find any hidden technology we can use. We cannot wait until it is too late." His assistant, Jess Taylor, nodded. "We must also gather all drones and reconnaissance vessels. We need to know what we face before it strikes again." Meanwhile, it's in orbit. The massive ship released smaller drones that hovered around the ocean. They scanned everything, and human ships could not touch them. Radar and satellites picked up their movements, but they were too fast and precise. Navy fleets attempted interception, but the drones avoided all attacks. Captain Taylor reported the situation to Ryan. "They are studying us. Every move we make, they observe," Ryan replied. "We need to understand what they want. Learning is our only chance to survive." On the streets of major cities, panic grew. People watched strange lights in the sky and felt small tremors from the ship above. Emergency broadcasts advised .com, but chaos spread quickly. Families packed cars and left the cities. Others sought shelter in buildings or underground stations. Social media was full of videos and reports from people terrified and confused. Governments tried to organize evacuation routes, but traffic and fear slowed everything. Ryan knew that time was against them. The massive ship moved slowly across the Atlantic. From the laboratory, Ryan saw the energy pulses. Each pulse could destroy a city if directed at the ground. He calculated that the ship could target multiple locations within hours. "We cannot fight it directly," Ryan said. "Our only chance is to survive the first strikes and study their technology." Carefully, Jess looked at the screens and whispered, "We have to be ready for anything." In the lab, Ryan activated a secure communication channel with military bases worldwide. He shared data on the drones and the massive ship. Commands were instructed to focus on observation and avoidance. Any attack could be disastrous. Drones sent back images showing smooth black surfaces, moving parts, and glowing energy lines. The technology was unlike anything humans had. Ryan wrote down every detail. "This is not just a weapon," he said. "It is a system built to control and destroy everything in its path." The president issued orders to evacuate the coasts. But reports of chaos came quickly. People fought over roads, panic spread in airports, and supply shortages began. Hospitals were overwhelmed with injured and sick. Emergency teams tried to manage the situation, but fear made coordination nearly impossible. Ryan watched the news feeds and knew that survival depended on discipline, not panic. "We must guide them carefully," he said to Jess. "If we lose order, we lose the chance to fight back." At night, the massive ship hovered over the ocean, dark and silent. Smaller drones patrolled the coasts. Human ships moved cautiously, trying to monitor every movement. Radar stations blinked with warnings, but the drones moved too quickly. Ryan calculated escape routes and safe zones for the people. He coordinated with military teams to set up underground bunkers and hidden bases. Each step required careful planning, and mistakes could cost thousands of lives. As the first hours passed, Ryan realized that humans were facing a new kind of enemy. It was intelligent, fast, and powerful. Traditional weapons could not reach it. Communication lines were unstable due to interference from the ship. The world had never seen such a threat, yet Ryan refused to give up. He continued his work, analyzing every pulse, every movement, and every signal from the ship. He knew that understanding the technology was humanity's only hope. The night grew darker, and the ship remained in orbit. Its presence caused fear and uncertainty worldwide. Panic had spread to every major city, and governments worked desperately to maintain control. Ryan and Jess prepared for the next phase. They knew that the massive ship would strike again. They also knew that the humans had only one chance to survive the first attacks. The hours ahead would decide the fate of millions. The war had begun, and the humans were not ready, but they had to fight with every resource they had. Survival depended on intelligence, courage, and quick action. The research vessel moved quietly across the Atlantic, keeping a safe distance from the massive ship. Captain Jess Taylor stood on the deck, scanning the dark horizon. Her hands tightened on the railing as the ship's lights reflected on the waves. Drones flew ahead, sending back images of the massive ship. The crew watched as the vessel hovered silently above the ocean, its black surface smooth and unyielding. Energy lines glowed along its body, pulsing with power. The humans had never seen anything like it. Ryan Cole studied the live images from the vessel in the laboratory. He adjusted the screens to get a better view of the energy patterns. "We cannot attack directly," he said. "Every attempt could destroy us. We must observe and gather information. But that is our only chance." Jess nodded. She turned to her crew. "Keep all drones active. Record everything. Move carefully, and stay ready to retreat if needed." The crew worked in tense silence, knowing that the slightest mistake could be fatal. The massive ship released small scout drones that hovered over the water. They moved with speed and precision, scanning every object in their path. Navy ships tried to intercept them, but every attack failed. Drones avoided missiles and radar detection with ease. Ryan watched the images and analyzed their movement. "They are studying us. Every step we take, they notice. We must learn from them, not fight them yet." Jess relayed the message to her crew. They maneuvered the vessel to stay within observation range but out of reach of the drones. Strange transmissions interfered with satellites and communication channels. Screens flickered with alien signals that humans could not understand. Ryan and his team tried to decode them, but every attempt failed. The signals were complex, precise, and powerful. They seemed to carry intelligence and purpose. The humans realized that these transmissions were part of the massive ship's strategy. Ryan said, "We must stay calm and keep analyzing. Panic will not save anyone." On the coasts, cities prepared for the worst. People evacuated in cars and buses, filling highways and streets. Emergency sirens wailed. Authorities directed traffic and coordinated shelters, but fear slowed the process. Hospitals prepared for injuries. Citizens stocked supplies and sought safety. Social media spread rumors, some false, some accurate. Ryan knew that order and discipline were crucial. He coordinated with emergency teams to set safe zones and evacuation routes. In orbit, the massive ship released energy pulses across the ocean. The pulses caused massive waves and tremors. Coastal cities felt the impact. Some areas lost electricity and communication. Naval vessels struggled against the waves. Ryan watched the readings, calculating the force and reach of the energy. Each pulse was controlled and deliberate. The humans were facing a power far beyond their understanding. Jess shouted orders to her crew to keep the vessel steady. They avoided the pulses, moving through the turbulent water. The research vessel deployed additional drones to study the massive ship. Each drone sent back images of smooth black surfaces, glowing energy conduits, and moving mechanical parts. Ryan analyzed every detail. He noted the advanced technology, the energy patterns, and the possible weak points. Jess guided the drones carefully, ensuring none were destroyed. The crew worked through the night, mapping the massive ship and preparing reports. They understood that knowledge was their only weapon. Back in the laboratory, Ryan and his team simulated attacks using human weapons. Every simulation failed. Missiles and drones could not damage the massive ship. Ryan realized that traditional warfare would not work. They needed a new approach. He looked at the images of the glowing energy lines and the pulsing power. "If we can understand their system, we might find a way to stop them," he said. Jess replied, "Then we watch, record, and learn. That is all we can do now." Night fell over the ocean. The massive ship remained in orbit, dark and threatening. Waves crashed against the hull of the research vessel as drones continued their patrol. The humans were tense but focused. Every second mattered. Ryan and Jess knew that the next move of the massive ship could change everything. They prepared for the possibility of a direct strike, but hoped to gather enough intelligence to survive. The energy pulses continued across the water, and the massive ship remained silent and unyielding. Humans watched in awe and fear. The technology was beyond comprehension. Every movement of the vessel, every pulse of energy, and every transmission showed intelligence and purpose. Ryan said, "We are facing something we do not fully understand. Observation and preparation are our only tools. We must survive to fight back." Jess nodded and turned to her crew. They worked through the night, recording every detail and maintaining vigilance. The war had begun, and humanity had only one chance to learn and survive. The scout ship descended from orbit and landed on a small, deserted island near the eastern seaboard. Drones sent back images to the research vessel. The ship was massive and black, reflecting no light. Its surface was smooth, and glowing energy lines pulsed along its body. Humans watched in silence, trying to understand what they saw. Captain Jess Taylor guided the research vessel closer, careful to stay out of range of any possible attack. Ryan Cole and his team analyzed the images on the screens. The ship had no visible doors or openings. It seemed to be a single, unified structure. The energy readings were immense, and the pulsing light suggested a power source far beyond human technology. Ryan said, "They are studying the island, the water, and our ships. Every movement is calculated." Jess nodded. "We need to stay hidden and observe. That is our only chance to learn." Small drones emerged from the scout ship and moved quickly over the island and surrounding water. They scanned everything in their path. Human naval ships attempted to intercept them, but the drones were too fast. Missiles fired at them, disintegrated in the air. The crew of the research vessel watched, tense and alert. Every movement of the drones was precise and intelligent. They mapped the area, tested the waters, and recorded data. Back in the laboratory, Ryan studied the data from the drones. The images showed strange mechanical structures inside the scout ship. Energy flowed through conduits, pulsing like a heartbeat. He calculated the strength of the energy and the speed of the drones. "This technology is beyond anything humans have. If we attack, we lose," he said. Jess replied, "Then we watch and learn. We cannot act recklessly." On the streets of nearby cities, people felt the tremors from the scout ship. Alarms rang. Windows shook. Emergency broadcasts warned citizens to stay indoors. Some people evacuated. Traffic jammed the roads. Hospitals prepared for possible injuries. Social media overflowed with videos and photos of strange lights in the sky. Panic spread, but orders still held in many places. Ryan knew that if people panicked completely, the human response would collapse. The scout ship released more drones into the water. They moved like small predators, scanning everything. Naval vessels tried to defend themselves, but the drones avoided all attacks. Captain Taylor maneuvered the research vessel carefully. She kept the drones in sight, but stayed out of their reach. Every crew member worked in silence, focused on survival. Ryan analyzed the behavior of the drones. They were not attacking immediately, but gathering information. It was clear that the scout ship and its drones were intelligent. They observed, calculated, and recorded. Ryan said, "They are learning about us. Every action we take, they see. We must move carefully and record everything." Jess agreed. She instructed the crew to deploy more observation drones, mapping the drones' paths and energy sources. Night fell, and the scout ship remained on the island. Its glowing energy lines lit the surroundings. The water around the island moved violently with each pulse of energy from the ship. Waves crashed against the shore. Humans watched and recorded. Every image and reading was sent back to the laboratory. Ryan and his team studied the patterns, trying to find weaknesses or signals they could understand. The research vessel remained in position, moving only when necessary to avoid detection. Drones continued to patrol the island and the water. Captain Taylor gave precise orders to keep the vessel safe. Every second mattered. Ryan and Jess knew that the scout ship could strike at any moment. They prepared contingency plans and escape routes. As the night deepened, the humans realized the scout ship was only the beginning. The massive ship in orbit remained, dark and powerful. Its presence caused fear and uncertainty. Ryan said, We are facing something we cannot fully understand. Observation is our only tool. We must survive to fight back." Jess looked at the glowing energy lines and nodded. The crew continued their work, recording every detail and maintaining vigilance. The war had begun, and humanity had only one chance to learn and survive. The next hours would be crucial, and the humans had to stay alert and ready for anything the scout ship might do. To be continued.